Hello, good afternoon viewers. Welcome to today's discussion, which is going to be about Jehovah's Witnesses and music that debases. Yes, I'll tell you how I came to choose this particular theme was because it was something that Lloyd put up on maybe last week, maybe the week before. It's been bothering me quite a bit now. And it showed the welcome that Samuel Heard was getting at a Brazilian airport from all the witnesses. We're calling everybody was shaking his hand, treating him like he was potentially a king in the heavens. And he broke into he did a little bit of a movement. But at the end of the day, if you are going to make a real big fuss about somebody who is a governing body member, because potentially you're thinking to yourself, right, prior to Armageddon, he's going to go up to receive his kingly crown, be involved in the spectacular slaughter on the earth, and he may just remember, when he looks at me, my hours have been down a bit, but he may look at me and say, I remember him, firm handshake, Brazil airport, we're keeping him on. So maybe that's the whole reason why everybody's making a big song and dance over him. But for all the other delegates that were turning up, there was a lot of music getting played by, they seemed to ship all the musicians from the Brazilian congregations, all the guys who can play an instrument. And there was a lot of singing and a lot of dancing, and it looked really nice. I don't know how the airport allowed so many people in the arrivals lounge, but it is bizarre. So of course that happens. And then the next thing is Lloyd tries to demonstrate that this isn't an unusual event. And the next thing is he puts up a video of, it looks like an international convention again, looks like an assembly hall where there's all these brothers and sisters, doing these dancing, which has been choreographed to a sort of Latin beat of a kingdom melody, and they're doing salsa dancing and really odd. I'm just thinking, if they had the International Convention in New York, would they do a sort of a hip-hop version of a kingdom melody? I don't know, the mind boggles with that one, and I thought that was really, really odd. But then worse was to come. The next thing is that one my jaw dropped. I don't know why I've not seen this before, but it was a video of these brothers doing line dancing to a Kenny Logan song, I think it's called, from that film, right, and Footloose. So they're all doing the Footloose, and they're doing line dancing in the Kingdom Hall on the platform. Now, for God's sake, I remember, when I was getting married, you would have liked to have picked a song to go down or come back, or while you're signing the register, something which was peculiar to you as a couple getting married. But as we all know, you're told, no, in the Kingdom Hall, it's a sacred place, and you can only play kingdom melodies. So how in the world these guys got to do Footloose and line dance on the platform is beyond me. But as we know, in different congregations in different areas, they seem to have their own set of rules. The irony of it being Footloose, of course, is that if you've ever seen the film, I did see it once a long, long time ago, and if I remember it well, it was about a young group of people that dancing was banned in the little town that they lived in. And they were trying to appeal to the town council to say, look, can we have some dancing in the village hall or whatever it is? And they would go, no. Because they would go, no, it's too worldly. And so it's ironic, isn't it? That they're dancing to a song called Footloose, which is about a group of people who aren't able to demonstrate their love for music and express themselves in dancing. And yet, when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses, we know that if you have a talent, a talent in anything at all, it won't be encouraged. The whole every Jehovah's Witnesses is full of people who could have done something, but decided to become a window cleaner. They could have, just imagine all the people in the Witnesses movement who could have done something, who could have achieved something, and they never did. They never followed their dreams, and it's just It's really sad and it's shocking. And there was another video, can't remember that one, and the video that really did my head in the most, because all the other videos like people capturing it on their phones, but this particular video was definitely produced by the witnesses, because it features Bethels all around the world, and it was to that song Happy by Pharrell Williams. And they're all dancing, you know, to show the happy, the dancing that, you know, they clean the toilet, that Samuel Hood's just done a big jobby in it, and they're quite happy to be cleaning Samuel's skid marks down the pan with the smile on the face. They're happy, cleaning the Sammy's skid marks, you know, they're happy with that. They're happy doing all these jobs, ironing and cooking and whatever it is, they're all happy. Now, I've missed, this is an old video and I don't know how I missed out on it. I may have seen a bit of it a long while ago, but I just thought it was some sort of send-up parody. But now it becomes obvious to me that it's not. This is an actual video that somebody spent hours and hours, a group of people, you know, putting all these different video clips together onto this song. And wow, absolutely wow. And the reason why, for me, it's a big, you know, for a lot of people, well, so what? But to me, it really does stick in my gut. And to understand this fully, you need to watch one of my other videos, which is on this channel. It was on another channel which got viewed quite a lot. It's hardly been viewed on this particular channel a lot, but it's called, I think, Jehovah's Witnesses, Music and Me. So if you want to get the full understanding of why this really resonates with me, just watch that video. But I'm going to refer to portions of that video so we can get back to this whole point about music that debases. So let's go back in time. Now, if you were, I don't know what time, when you say that you get into music, but let's say, seriously, let's say 15. So if you were 15 in 1982, you would have attended a district convention where you would have listened to a talk called Music That Debases. Shortly afterwards, there was a Watchtower also called Music That Debases, which just went into probably a little bit more detail about it. Now, I don't remember word for word that Watchtower at all, but I can tell you what's it all about. I can really tell you basically what it was trying to express. It's a very simple thought. It simply goes like this. If you take drugs, you have the possibility of becoming under the control of the demons, Satan and his demons, because when you take drugs, that you free your mind, and when you're in that state, that and you're able to control what you're thinking, that's apparently the demons can come in and they can take over you and affect, sort of influence you to do certain things. And this is what, that's another one of my videos. What is this about Jehovah's Witnesses and demons? But demons is, it's with the witnesses. It's a big thing. So anyway, apparently the demons have already got the control of the world. So of course, a lot of people who do take drugs, of course, are people who write music. Yes, musicians, as we do know, do tend to take a lot of drugs. It's so easy once you get into that world that people literally will just offer you drugs. When bands are on touring, they'll have somebody they'll take along in their entourage who tries, every town that they go in will try and source drugs from a local drug dealer so that the band members don't have to go out and try and procure drugs themselves. This is absolute true, and it happens with so many bands. And since probably 65, when marijuana became quite big in the music world, a lot of the artists from 65 onwards take drugs. And of course, what the Watchtower was saying was, right, if you find out that your favourite pop beat combo have ever taken drugs, well, think of this. Potentially that you're singing along to lyrics or humming music that has been inspired by the demons. So therefore, you could be inviting demons into your house, not realising that you're singing these songs. So of course, in the case of the Beatles, from 65 onwards, when I think I think Bob Dylan introduced them to marijuana, and then of course they went through the LSD, and that's both Lennon and also let's take this a second. Hold on, and I'm back. And towards the end of the Beatles' careers, obviously both Lennon and Harrison got involved in heroin. So in other words, simply put, they were just saying, if you find out your favourite artist has been taking drugs, well then it puts you in a difficult position that you may be singing along to lyrics that have been inspired by the demons. And so of course the writing credits for all of Lennon and McCartney's songs should have gone Lennon and McCartney and BLZ Bob. In fact, that sounds like a hip hop artist. BLZ Bob. Well, there you go. I'm putting it out there. So anyway, that's what the long and short of it was. So of course, when the talk finished, everybody started to think about the artists they liked. Have they been known for drugs? And everybody's thinking, what about so and so? Has he ever known to take drugs? And a lot of people who are back in those days, well, a lot of people still do really believe that everything that comes out from the governing body is literally coming out from God himself. So of course, you really took that to heart. You really, really took that to heart. And what happened was, for a certain group of brothers in the Ayr congregation, before I moved to Ayr, they really, really took that to heart. And they looked at their record collection and then realised that probably everything they had in their record collection, that there would have been drugs involved in the three processes of either the writing, the recording, and the mixing of the song. Quite often, once an artist has put down all his tracks, leaves it in the hand of an engineer and a producer, then go around and say, right, you lot, off you go, leave this to me, I'll get the balances ready. And the guy doing that is usually off his head on drugs as well. You know, Martin Hannett, the producer of Joy Division, there's just one of them, but a lot of them are. And so these brothers realised that basically everything in their music collection there would have been a drug, would have been using drugs. So they thought, right, we're going to take the advice of the Watchtower, and we're going to get rid of all our records because we don't know what influence it's having on us at all. Now what they could have done is they could have gone down to a record store. Remember those? A record store, yes. It was a shop which sold something called a record. They went to a record store and they could have got quite a lot of money back, and then maybe bought musical instruments and then started writing their own songs, because there's never going to be a problem with that at all. You just need to watch my video. And they decided not. They followed the example, I think, of Christians in Ephesus. I think there was people who got involved in spiritistic practice or had magic books, and once they realised that they were condemned, the magic books were worth a lot of money. Did they have books in those days? It's a bit bizarre. So once they realised that they had to change their ways, they just thought, right, we can sell these magic books on, but then we're passing all the sort of incantations to somebody else. So to follow what we should be doing, we're going to take a loss here massively. I don't know how then they got on with their lives, how did they earn bread to pay for bread. And they burnt the loss. They had a big fire and it was worth so many, whatever the currency was back in then. It was like 36,000, whatever it was, or a lot of money. So basically, the whole livelihood went up in smoke. And of course, what the brothers weren't getting rid of their livelihood, but they were getting rid of a lot of records which, when they added them up, were worth a hell of a lot of money. They're worth a hell of a lot of money, and they thought, right, we shall do this act, because we're following the example of the first century Christians. And also we're following the example of the guidance from the Watchtower, from Jehovah God, and they probably saw their names up in lights. They probably thought that their example, once it got out there, would be mentioned in the yearbook. They're probably thinking, yeah, the yearbook, 1994 yearbook, we should be into that one. Or maybe thinking that they'll be invited at the next district convention, or maybe they'll do a tour of the conventions, giving their fine example. So all the rest of the brothers are going, yes, what a fine example from the brothers in Ayr, I'm going to do the same as well. So they went and burnt all the records and ended up having no records at all. Just imagine life without music, but they had none at all. Needless to say, it never went according to plan, because when the elders in Ayr heard what they'd done, they were none too pleased, and had them, at least all the ones that had positions in the congregation, being servants and pioneers, brought them in, and just basically said that potentially their position in the congregation could be questioned because they'd done something out in the public, whereupon if somebody had seen them, if Joe Public had seen them on doing the speech, if the press had got hold of it, it would have brought reproach against Jehovah's name. You can see where we're going with this. So the elders weren't too happy with this whatsoever, and they all of a sudden they realised the name weren't going to be in lights, and they weren't going to get a mention in the yearbook. Instead, they'd be put down in the naughty book, the naughty list. And they just thought to themselves, what have we done? We've just literally just thrown away thousands of pounds for absolutely nothing. So anyway, and then shortly after that, I entered the scene. And if you want to know what happened next, watch the video. So we're going to skip. So basically, that shows what can happen when you get a watchtower which just tells you that what you like is wrong. That is the knock-on effect when you get a group of people of like-minded souls who then say, I think we should do something. So it wasn't just an angel, this is a group of people. So it shows how powerful the watchtower can be when it manipulates people to is probably what they wanted to do anyway. You know, if the watchtower could say ban TVs, I'm sure they do the same. So we fast forward now to something happened to me, and this will get back to the beginning of the discussion about dancing. And I was now in a covers band. I was in a covers band in Rutherglen congregation because unfortunately I felt bad about writing my own music. Watch the video. So I'm in a covers band and we're doing music. We're all brothers. And we used to just we used to rehearse on a Friday. Every 2 Fridays we did, songs that we liked at the time, Genesis and Pink Floyd and bands like this. You name it. That this is what we did, and we loved doing these songs. But we didn't want to go live. We just liked playing along to these tunes. Now the thing about it is, we weren't writing at this point. We weren't writing our music, but I'll come back to this a little bit later on. So people got to hear that we were in a band, and next thing, his brother who was getting married who was from Ayr congregation, who was marrying the daughter of an elder in Rutherglen congregation, said, I tell you what, because he was from Ayr and they were a bit more liberal there, he says, I want you to play at our wedding. And we're going, I don't know how that's going to go down. And we thought, well, we can't, if we're playing at a wedding, we can't be doing Pink Floyd and Genesis. You've got to up your game a little bit. So then we also threw numbers into the hat of songs that we would think would be acceptable to the witnesses, and also songs that would get people up to dance. And so we went through about 45-minute set of songs that we thought, right, a whole repertoire of slow songs, fast songs, songs from the 60s, Johnny B. Good, rock and roll medley, this sort of stuff. We thought we were going to be really, really safe here. So, came to the wedding, and I put in personally a hell of a lot of work into this, because although I do play a whole gamut of instruments, I do play a lot of instruments, drums, keyboards, piano, guitar, bass, singing, not too clever on. And the thing is, I cannot read music, no. So if somebody gave me the sheets of one of the songs we're doing, for instance, back in the days before you could download it for the internet, we'd have to buy the song sheet which shows you what to do. A, D minor diminished and C major, all that nonsense. I would not have a clue because I can't read music. Not only do I cannot understand crotchets and quavers, I don't even know what these notes are. I don't even know what the notes are on any instrument I play. Literally, I'm struggling. I just go on, I have a feel for it and I play it. I can't read music. If somebody asks me to write down songs that I've written so they can follow them, not a chance. I don't even know what chords they are. Not a clue. So for me to learn these songs, I literally had to listen to every single one, find the note on the bass, bum, 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 yeah, here we are, there's another one, which one's that one? It took a tremendous long time for me to do it. Other people were in the band were more talented, it was just like, yeah, not a problem, boom, 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 got it. For me, real struggle. So I put a hell of a lot of hours in trying to learn this new set of material for this one wedding. So it came up to the wedding and we'd rehearsed hard and we were very confident what we're doing. The very first time we were going to play live as a band, doing these numbers for the very first time in front of two congregations that merging together for this wedding. So we came to do this wedding, and what you start off with, back in the day in Glasgow, everybody did this, got up and danced to music that was called ceilidh dancing. You probably don't know what that is, but it's like Scottish country dancing. In England they call it barn dancing. I don't know what they call it anywhere else. No, it's very hard to get the origins of these songs because each song has its own melody, but each song has its own dance as well. So nobody knows the origins of these. They weren't written by the governing body, so they were clearly written by worldly blokes. But because they were probably written in maybe the 40s and the 50s, they clearly weren't smoking pot at the time. So, okay. So anyway, everybody dances to ceilidh songs. All ceilidh songs. We love ceilidh songs. Like when you do ceilidh dancing, it's quite physical. You get a sister or your wife or your mum or somebody else or somebody else's mum, and literally you're swinging these people around. It's quite physical. And even if you sit down there and you say, actually, I'm only dancing with my wife, it's not quite appropriate to dance with somebody else's wife. There's one particular dance that when you get up, you start off with your wife and then you do a little bit, it stops, and next thing is that where you go in, all of a sudden the outer circle moves forward. Next thing is you're putting your arms around somebody who isn't your wife. It may be somebody else's wife, or a young sister, or maybe an older sister, or a fat sister, or it goes on anyway. So that's what's happening. So all of a sudden you're dancing quite close with somebody who isn't your wife, your sister, or your mum. And that's ceilidh dancing, and everybody is enjoying themselves. One particular couple who really were enjoying themselves with ceilidh dancing was Brian and Anita Lowe. Now, Brian's integral to this story, so I just need to speak a little bit about him. So Brian Lowe, he came from Rutherglen, from another congregation. He started to date a lassie called Anita Gray. They got married. Anita was a little bit of a flirt, and I remember when Dino came into our congregation, oh my god, talk about flies round a shit. It was unbelievable. It was shame we didn't have cameras back in those days, because it would have been really funny to just look at that, look. But she was married at this point, but she was right, a really outrageous flirt. And Brian was, he came into our hall and he looked like a good guy. And he got promoted to being a servant. And imagine a servant, of course, when you're a servant and you move hall, you have to wait to get reappointed. Well, I think he was a servant anyway, and he was a pioneer, and Anita was a pioneer as well. And we thought he was a good guy because me and others were pioneering at the time, and he was a little bit older than us, but he understood the problems that there were in Rutherglen at the time, and he used to reference certain elders saying that particular brother needs a rocket up his arse, all the elders need a rocket up all their arses. He wasn't slow at coming forward criticising the body of elders or individual elders. And because of the troubles I'd had with the elders, I just thought, yes, here's the man for the job. He's going to go in there and kick arse, and he's really going to sort out this congregation. So anyway, that old chestnut of power corrupts really did, because when he became an elder, I actually went up and shook his hand and said, I said to him, oh, congratulations, we finally got a man on the inside. I thought, this guy, next elders meeting, he's going to say, look, brothers, blah, 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 and he'll start influence the way things happen in the congregation. In a positive manner. I thought he was a progressive, forward-thinking elder who'd move us forward a bit. How wrong I was. He actually made Tony Morris look humble. This is what this guy's character all about. So if you think about it, he makes Tony Morris look a humble guy. Basically, once Brian Lowe became an elder, he became an ogre, he became a tyrant. He then made it very quickly, he made it known that he had an agenda and he was going to see this through. And one of the first things that people got to feel the full weight of his persuasiveness was during this wedding. He's now an elder. So he's enjoying the ceilidh dancing. I think we got them up, him and his Anita up, when we could drag him off Dino. We got them up to demonstrate how to do one of the ceilidh dances. Because a lot of people, how does this work? Right, you do this, right? Oh yeah, got it, right, fine. So of course we did that. So everybody enjoyed themselves, fantastic, great, wedding's going absolutely brilliant. And then of course then the band come on, and we're a bit, how's this going to go? And it went fantastic. We went up and had a ball. I've got a 45-minute video of this, of us playing, and everybody is having a great time. There's elders up dancing, there's elders' wives up dancing, there's elders' children up dancing, and there's a lot of spaces. You're not as physical as you would be because it's not ceilidh dancing, so you've got your own little space to dance, and everybody, to see people expressing themselves through music and dance was wonderful to see, to like music which wasn't ceilidh dancing with dodgy origins, and it was wonderful. Everybody had a great time, and it was a wonderful wedding, and we played, we enjoyed it. People came up to us at the end of us, brilliant, loved it, everybody loved it, and that's what we thought. And on the basis of us doing that, there was another couple who were engaged at the time said to us, oh, by the way, I want you to do our wedding as well. So we already had our second booking. Fantastic. I think you might have got paid for that. I think it might have been £100 between us all. I think the PA was 50 quid, and after petrol I think we all ended up out of pocket. But anyway, everybody had a good time. So then, moving on, very shortly after the wedding, all of a sudden the brother of the bride came to me and said, have you heard? And I says, no, I haven't heard. He says Brian Lowe's not very happy. I says, what with? He says he's actually saying that the wedding had gone into, in his words, I think it became a worldly wedding. We don't like that word, worldly, when you're a witness. It became a worldly wedding where people were up dancing suggestively to worldly music, and Brian Lowe had already started. He was straight away in there bringing it up at the next elders meeting, and Paul, the brother of the bride, was that indignant he wanted to resign his ministerialship in protest at the way this guy was going around spreading bad feeling and ill feeling in the congregation after everybody had a good time. And I thought, right, okay, let it pass, and all of a sudden I just thought, that's me and Brian Lowe finished. And when I watched the video back, you can actually see him at the side of the stage, in between the stage and the back door, and he's just standing there with his arms like this, and literally he's taking notes, he's whirring in his head, he's thinking, yeah, they're dancing, oh dear, you could see he was ready to build up to something. So it came to the next wedding. Next wedding was a brother from Rutherglen marrying a sister in Stranraer, which is miles away, smaller congregation, but ceilidh dancing us again, and I just thought, right, this will be just as good, same people, Rutherglen knew the people who danced last time, not a problem. We played, and nobody got up. It was absolutely horrible. And if you've been in a band and if you're playing at an event, nobody dances, it is the worst feeling in the world. You think, why are we here? If it's a DJ, he just then all of a sudden changes and puts on a more popular song or whatever, mix and matches. If you're in a band and you've got a specific set list, there's no mixing and matching anything. You have to drag yourself all the way through that set. Nobody danced. Maybe a couple of the slow songs. It was absolutely horrible. And when we'd finished, I went up to a guy called Simon Harrison, who was the son of a guy called George Harrison, not the same George Harrison as the one who's in the Beatles. But it's a guy called Simon Harris. And I said, Simon, what's going on? Last wedding, dancing, enjoying it, you're on video. What happened? He said, he's going to tell, I couldn't. I says, what, why not? Because of Brian, he just put it around that the elders had talked about it and said that, that when you went up, that we weren't to get up and dance. So in other words, Brian had managed to influence the rest of the elders and their wives and their children that when we got up to play, because we were doing worldly music, that they weren't able to go up and dance. And of course, all the rest of the periphery of the congregation, when they noticed that the elders and the elders' wives and the sons and daughters weren't getting up, they weren't going to get up either because they didn't want to create a wave. And anyway, they already knew as well, because obviously it spread around. And I was completely unaware of this. And I felt obviously awful after this wedding, because I thought that we had ruined this couple's wedding. And it had. It wasn't us, but I felt bad because we were there. So that just shows, how somebody who has an agenda, who becomes an elder in a position of power, can put through suggestions which have an effect on a whole load of people, which is what it did. So, coming back to music that debases. Okay, for a kick-off here, Pharrell Williams, I'm pretty sure, is worldly. I'm sure that Pharrell Williams is worldly. I don't think he's a witness. And I'm sure he's taken his fair amount of... I'm sure he's rolled a fatty and, had a long smoke, as they're putting down the tunes. And I'm sure all the musicians who were playing the instruments were all, passing around the joint, in between takes. And I'm pretty sure Pharrell was listening back in the control booth. I'm pretty sure when it was getting mixed, they're all in control, guys. I'm pretty sure everybody in that whole process of making that song happy was taking drugs. Just mild recreational drugs, but they were taking drugs. So how is it then that they would do a talk in 1982 called Music That Debases, and decades later, not all that, 30 years later, whatever it is, produce a video like that with a worldly artist, worldly music? Because that Watchtower from 82, if that hadn't have come out, I don't think Brian Lowe would have had the attitude he had, because that gave you the foundation to do whatever you wanted to do after that. All those brothers in Air would not have burnt their records, and causing such a fallout at the time and losing a lot of money if that Watchtower hadn't come out. And the whole premise of that Watchtower is so fundamentally wrong anyway. And the reason why I can say this is because they, either in the Watchtower or shortly afterwards, was given the example, because there was this really strong thing about music at that time, around about 84, of looking at examples of certain songs which were known to have connections to maybe Satanists. And one of the songs was Stairway to Heaven, which appears on Led Zepp 4. That's the album with the old man with the Styx album. And it is said that if you put the record on and play it backwards, you can't do that with a CD, don't try it. Alexa, play Stairway to Heaven backwards, please. That's not going to happen, is it? So you'd have to have a record and put it back. And apparently, if you listen to Plant singing, there's either he's recorded another vocal on top of that other one, or otherwise it's just the way it works out, that apparently you can hear other lyrics. Now, Plant said when he wrote Stairway to Heaven that he doesn't know where the lyrics came from, they just sort of wrote themselves. And of course, Jimmy Page was a big fan of Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley was a Satanist who had a house in Loch Ness, which Jimmy Page bought. And Aleister Crowley's face is one of the faces that, if you look at Sergeant Pepper, his face is there. So of course, if you want to use an example of satanic influence in music, that's your example. Plants not knowing where the lyrics, how the lyrics wrote themselves, and Jimmy Page's connection to Aleister Crowley. And the Beatles. So you can see, why people then were anti-Beatles, wanting to get rid of their stuff at the same time as well. The thing about it is, I don't class myself as a musician, but I do class myself as a songwriter. And I can tell you absolutely that sometimes when you are writing a song and you have a riff, and you're then trying to put a separate melody line, a vocal melody line, over the keyboard you're playing, or the bass, or the guitar, that you pluck lyrics from nowhere, because at this point you don't know what your song's going to be about. So literally sometimes words can appear in your head, and you can write them down, or you maybe write them down, you just sing them, and you pick it up and you sing them again. And then sometimes those lyrics will never go away. All of a sudden these just fit so well that you don't want to change them, and sometimes you then will base the rest of the song on those lyrics. Sometimes it's a bit of a struggle, but you think, no, I can't. To me now, those lyrics are the song, even though they are just a jumble of words that came at your head. I've had experiences of writing songs. Hold on a second. Back again. I've had an example of writing a song which, funny enough, is on my YouTube channel called Always the Way, and the song is called The New System. I wrote it when I was obviously a Jehovah's Witness in around about 81, 82, and then did a 4-track version of it in the late 80s, maybe early 90s. And the keyboard was all set out. The song is built on the keyboard riff. I had 4 tracks. I put in on the first track the drums and the keyboards. The keyboard followed through. I know at the end I want to have a long guitar solo. I don't know how it's going to go yet. So I'm recording this, I'm following the same keyboard line, here we go, and for some strange reason I then started to play at the approximate time when we'd be getting the solo. I started putting in 2 notes. I don't know where that came from. It just happened. And my hands just went to this bit, and I thought, wow. And I just carried on playing it, and I played it for maybe another 4 minutes. And I just loved it. And it was just accidental. I don't know why it came there. I don't know where that came from. And I finished the recording of the keyboard. I then went on, I put down the bass. Then I came up to the guitar. I had the whole solo figured out at the end. And I just didn't know how I was going to finish the song. I thought I'll just fade it out. Just playing along, come to the bit, extend it with the odd keyboard bit, playing along, and then all of a sudden I finished the guitar solo. I had nowhere else to go. The song at that moment had not gone further than this solo when I'd been writing it. For some reason my hand then went up the fretboard and started playing, which I think is like a D shape open, and it just sounds amazing. I don't know why my hand went up there. I could have gone up there and gone to the wrong chord. I could have hit something which been sound so awful. Go, right, I am going to fade it out before I hit that chord. For some reason, it was like while I was playing it, that all of a sudden somebody else took over my hands and just brought it up there and just says, this is how to finish this song. I know we're recording live. I know you've not practiced this before, but I'm going to guide your hand up there, and that's the way to end the song. And that's the way the song ends. So if you want to listen to it, it's on my other channel called The New System, under the Always the Way channel. Anyway, that in a nutshell epitomises the beauty of writing songs, or even writing lyrics or poetry, whatever. Sometimes things happen, and sometimes if you think too much about it, it doesn't work. Sometimes you just have to just let your fingers, let the beauty of music, the beauty of the song take over your body, that it knows where it's to go, even though your fingers are not too sure, it takes over. Now, if you then said, I was smoking pot at the time and described this to Jehovah's Witnesses. It's obvious. At that point in your song, that's when the demons took over, because you've already confirmed that all of a sudden your hands went to places they've never been to before. That's when they took over. So in other words, this whole thing is a lot of nonsense, because some of the greatest things that happen in music are by accident. Sometimes you just get straight into it. Sometimes you can press the wrong switch on a foot pedal and everyone goes, wow, that sounds brilliant. Sometimes you can do the wrong chord, but it's in the right key. Brilliant. The best music ever produced, half the time, it's by accident. Somebody does something by mistake. Somebody does, singing along and they just put a little octave higher or lower. The best accents. And it's just one of these things. So to then say that everything that is been produced in music, wonderful piece of music, because the artist was on drugs, and that the only way this could have happened is through sort of demonic influence, is just utter rubbish. It's pathetic. It's taking away from humans' ability to write beautiful pieces of music and to adapt, and out of nothing produce something beautiful, sometimes by mistake. It takes that away. And when they do things like that, the knock-on effect can last for years. And straight away we had the knock-on effect there, that they burnt all their records. I went and destroyed a mint copy of the Magical Mystery Tour, because I knew by 67, end of 67, the Beatles were on LSD and smoking pot, so I chucked it in the bin. What a knobhead. And of course, then it inspires other guys like Brian Lowe to have an agenda of saying, right, all worldly music, late 50s, 60s, it's all wrong, because it's written by worldly people. And that's the foundation for that goes back to that Watchtower. So this just epitomises how you get guys in the Watchtower who have their own agenda, and once they set the stall out and write it into sort of, say, canon law, put in the Watchtower, that the effect that this it's not just a ripple around the organisation, it's something which can just go on, and that can go on for years and years and years. So that's why it really affects me watching videos like this of these dancing to worldly music. I'm thinking, my God, after the utter nonsense that I got put through, is watch the video. You'll get an idea why I'm frustrated. As a side note to this whole story, it just shows that for what happens in one place, doesn't it? How it affects some people up here, and then other people. Really, and you're wondering, are we part of the same organisation? I went to a wedding in Wallasey, it was an engagement party, I believe, for a guy called Keith Johnson. And Keith Johnson was a servant and a pioneer who all of a sudden at the age, he was seeing this girl who was like, for 2 years, between like 14 and 15, a little bit odd if you ask me. So anyway, I'm pretty sure about that. So I'm sure when she turned 16, that's when the parents, I think he approached them to and says, I want to marry your daughter. And they said, yes, you've got now got a blessing, 16. So I'm sure she got engaged when she was 16. It was really, really young. She looked like she was out of school. Her name was Louise. And I was up at their house at an engagement party. I think they weren't living together, obviously, but I was at their house. And I was flicking through his record collection. This is post music that debases Watchtower and Talk and the naming and shaming of Led Zepp 4. And I'm going through Keith's record collection when all of a sudden, oh my God, and I pull out Led Zepp 4 with the sticks on the back, and I went, Keith, this is the album that's got Stairway to Heaven on it. And Keith goes, yeah, I absolutely love that song. And I said, but this is the one that's got the backwards vocal track on it. Really? And he was, I'm sure he's still got the record. I'm sure Keith has still got it, if he's still alive, in his record collection. If he's still got records, he still has Led Zepp 4, which just shows somehow, when the organisation, you get some things that people do in one congregation, and then in other ones, it's sometimes like a different organisation, the way some of them locally misapply rules. But there you go. It's just an interesting footnote. But anyway, I thought I'd leave that with you. And for anybody who was not around in 1982 for that Watchtower, this will be a news to you. And if you were around in 82 and you're about 15 onwards and you're a bit of a music lover, you'll actually remember these things. And yeah, what a shame. What a shame. Anyway, oh, one more thing. Thank you for all the birthday comments and wishing me a birthday. It's very nice and it was appreciated. And yeah, it's nice. I thank each and every one of you who took the time to wish me a happy birthday. It was good. It was a good weekend, especially in line with the Apollo landings, which I gorged on all the promos on the TV, which I did mention in that talk. Anyway, see you later. Have fun. Thanks for watching and see you again. Bye.